Okay, so talking about the rhetorical presidency, looking at Obama and Trump, a lot to say there. I think both of them, in their own ways, have mastered, respectively, in different ways, I'd say, the use of rhetoric. But first, with Obama, my assessment of Obama is. I disagree vehemently with the content of almost everything that he says. His rhetorical skill is pretty profound in a lot of ways. Take his farewell address as an example. Walks out on stage with a smile and is very much has this air of likability to him in the way he presents himself. Is quick to throw a couple of jabs of humor towards himself as the lame duck president, and as he's telling people to sit down, and nobody's listening to him. He's making jokes reflecting the lame duck presidency that he's in. And then he steps into some personalizing aspects of his message, really drawing the people in, connecting with the people on this personal level. And then he jumps into the things that he wants to say and uses repetition with just his phraseology throughout, repeating the same phrase. And when he gives examples of things to make his point, he does it in threes, all throughout. These are rhetorical devices, and the personalizing of the message. I mean, these are things that he's done all throughout his presidency, but very clear in this farewell address, a little bit over the top with the use of rhetorical devices. I mean, just very simplistic in his speech, his vocabulary. He doesn't use lots of big words. He makes it simple. Stays to the point. And then he very much he uses gestures when he's trying to when he's speaking of something where he will have both his hands open or make just a cutting gesture to make another point. He very, very good use of gestures. I think his farewell address really epitomizes this connecting with the people that he would do from the stage as he delivered his message. Now, get into some of his messaging itself, looking at domestic and international. I found his domestic rhetoric, by and large, if he was speaking to his constituents, to a crowd where he was very well liked, he would, of course, be a little bit more passive, but still, I found him most of the time to be a little bit aggressive and preachy with the delivery of his message. He had a point. He was trying to sell something, an idea, a thing. He was trying to draw you in, and he was really, I think, playing on the emotion of people in this aggressive way. If you disagreed with him, then there's something wrong with you, and you deserve to be shunned. Just very much an Alinsky tactic, which, if you haven't read Rules for Radicals, I think you should. That's an aside. Internationally, though, he was very apologetic for basically the existence of the U.S., always apologizing that the U.S. could do things better, should do things better. We should not have done much of what we have done. We epitomize all that's wrong with the Western world. I mean, you can see this all throughout his presidency when he was speaking internationally. So, aggressive at home, apologetic away. But looking into the domestic a little more, and kind of moving towards comparing him with Trump, I never found that he really got into policy directives. Or never really spoke about the policy in any depth. He would speak about things in generalities, and again use these rhetorical devices where you think you're hearing something, but never more than anything than just generalities, basic simplistic ideas. But he very much appealed to the masses with that sense of getting you to agree with him, and plainly motioned where if you did not agree with him, then again something's wrong with you, and this is kind of pushing his agenda. His agenda, as he said at the outset of his presidency, was to fundamentally transform the country, which is what I think is what he set about doing through his use of rhetoric. And I think that in a lot of ways, this use of rhetoric in this appealing to the mass media, I mean not the mass media, the mass populace. I think that he very much epitomizes the Wilsonian doctrine. I mean, just absolutely. He is very much the popular leader, and I don't see him as the constitutional officer. I guess you could use the wolf in sheep's clothing sort of analogy, and I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to say anything. I'm as an analogy, he would be the constitutional officer, or the popular leader in the constitutional officer's clothing. He very much looked the part, but I don't think that he fundamentally played the part. It was all look and all show and no substance. But getting into Trump, which I think just be short on Trump. Trump is, I think, in some ways a rhetorical genius, but in the sense of the talk show host. I think he was great at what he did with the Apprentice, but I think that same use of rhetoric, that same use of style that I think he's capitalizing on when he speaks at his rallies and whatnot, I think he's having a hard time transitioning to any sort of maybe what we would think, I don't think Trump stands a chance at being any version of the 19th century president. It's not even on the table. But I think he's something different than what Wilson and Obama were in the sense of the popular leader. He very much is that, but he is some different beast in and of itself. I see a lot of similarities and a lot of differences between he and Obama, and them, but I think that Trump's rhetoric on the stage and as he's moving, doing what he does, he speaks in greater detail, but he still epitomizes the tweet. It just, he speaks in tweets sometimes, I think is what I'm trying to say. I mean, are tweets taking over rhetoric? I mean, oratory, maybe. This may happen over the next 4 to 8 years with Donald Trump. But I think that when Trump speaks, he lots of one-liners, gets the crowd chanting, but we'll see how that goes over this next period of time.